In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to make your own DIY drill paddle. I'll give you measurements, specifications, and give you some tips and some ideas. Please click like and subscribe if you like videos like this. Let's get into the video. Here's what it'll look like when you're finished. It's pretty cool. It works well. I've been using mine for a while off and on, and still works great. Let's see how I did it. Alright guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to break down step by step how I made my DIY drill paddle and why I put everything together in a certain way. I'll also show you how I made a custom carrying bag too. We'll go through everything in the video, the tools that you need, the parts that you need. If you've seen my drill paddle video before, you'll notice that I added something in the comments about I added something new to it to make it better. So I'll show you what I added today in this video, which makes this drill paddle a lot better. And first of all, you might say, why didn't you just buy one from Walmart? They're like 50 bucks, right? Well, I'm in the Philippines, and in the Philippines here, you really can't get anything. If you want to order it from Amazon or from, actually Walmart doesn't send anything to the Philippines. So if I see it on Amazon, and of course it's always sold out, I can order it. It'll cost me another $50 just to get it here. I'm not paying $100 for a drill paddle, especially when I could make it myself for, I don't know, less than $10 or $15. So let's get to the video, and I'll show you some things that you need to get this thing going. So here are some of the things that you're going to need to make your drill paddle. You're going to need a drill. It could be any drill, because you're going to need to drill a hole in this threaded rod. You'll see why later. And of course you're going to need to drill to power it too. I just have a wrench and a vice grip. You just need these because you're going to need to hold on to your rod, and you'll need a wrench and some vice grips, maybe some pliers, whatever is easier for you. You'll need that so you can hold on to the threaded rod while you thread the nuts on the end here. You'll need a threaded rod, and I'll go over how long everything is. You'll need 2 end cap pieces of PVC, 1 long piece for the shaft. You'll need an old foam noodle. You'll see why we need this. This was an important thing I added on. And in the center, I have 2 nuts and a washer. I put that in 2 different spots here, and that's another really important thing that you're going to need. And then here are the items in order that you install at the end of it. I've got a washer, a nut, a lock washer, a bigger washer, a metal pin, and I just basically made this. I cut a piece of metal to make it. It's gonna fit to lock your propeller in place, and then a washer on the other side and a nut. Now here's what I'm going to be putting this on. This is my Koetsu 4.5 meter long inflatable paddleboard. It's made by Koetsu. I think it's a Chinese brand, but it's about 38 inches wide, and from the end of it to the front of it, 4.5 meters, which is about 14 feet 7 inches, I guess. I have a motor hanging bracket in the back, and now I have a water snake trolling motor for it, but every once in a while I want to bring the drill paddle out just for fun. Alright, let's get on with some dimensions first. Got our foam noodle. This is going to go on the back, and just to show you, this piece I cut is about 3 inches long. You'll see why we'll need this near the propeller. And I've got another piece here, and I cut this about 11 or 12 inches long. This side doesn't matter too much. This is in case the drill paddle falls in the water. Let's just move these off to the side for now. The PVC cap measures 1 1/4. The outside measurement of this PVC cap is 1 1/4 inches. The PVC here, let's take a look. And the external measurement from, or the outside diameter of my PVC is 1 inch. You don't need anything bigger than that. You actually don't want anything that big. This is a perfect size right here. And I made this shaft. Let's see how long it is. This shaft is 47 inches long. You don't want it too long, and you can't have it too short because of the angle it is in the water. Okay, so that takes care of the caps and the PVC. This thread is just all thread, but I'm here in the Philippines. They don't call it all thread. You just tell them you want a threaded rod. And everything here is in millimeters. So if I look on this in inches, that's tough to look at. But I think I measured it in millimeters before, and it's about 10 millimeters. And I made the rod itself 52.5 inches. So this rod is 52.5 inches. There's a reason why it needs to be longer than the PVC. Of course, you'll figure that out. Now I just left this end piece on here. I left this on there because I didn't want to unscrew that. That's rusted on there pretty good. And actually, this is a good thing. If you're looking at that and you're wondering why my rod is rusty and it looks like crap, well, it's because I actually use this thing. So when you're in salt water, this thing's going to get rusty no matter how much you oil it or do anything. You can see probably about a foot to foot and a half down from the end, I put a nut, then I put a washer, and I put another nut on it. And then further down from that, it's probably another foot and a half down. I've got a nut, a washer, and another nut. This is probably the most important thing. It's like a bearing spacer. I don't have any bearings, but this makes it so it doesn't wobble around, because as this thing is spinning fast inside of that PVC pipe, this rod will start wobbling around, and it's a little unstable, hard to hold. So by putting this in here, it acts like having a bearing in there. So it has just enough clearance to go inside of the tube, and these things really help it so it's smooth as you're operating this drill paddle. See, here's what you do at the end of this. Leave yourself about 1.25 inches at the end or so, and you drill a hole through there. Now the size hole that you drill is going to be dependent on how big the pin is that you have. You don't want it to be too big because you don't want to weaken this too much. I drilled it as big as the shaft of the pin that I made, and I just found a piece of metal and cut it so it would work. All right, let's get to it. So this is the end that's going to go into my drill. I'll demonstrate it here, and then we'll take it out on the water with the paddle board. This is the end that's going into the drill. If you wanted to, you can grind this down and make it a hex shape or square shape or something that would be easier for this drill to hook onto. But it doesn't matter. It's not that strong of a force. It's never just spun on this. It actually grabs it every time and turns it with no problems. But if you wanted to make it nicer, you could do that. All right, let's start. So I'll just give you the measurements here. So from the end of the nut to the tip here, I just left about 1 3/4 inches here. So you can see here, I have one nut, I have a lock washer, I have another nut, and then I have a washer. This washer is important as it's going to be sitting right up against this cap, and that's going to be spinning. So this rod will be spinning against the cap. You want that washer there to make it smooth. Once again, I just left this on here for demo purposes. I'm not going to unscrew all this because these bolts are rusted in place. So I know they're not going to move unless I really force them off. All right, let's go. Okay, let's take our long piece of PVC. Let's take this end that goes into the drill and slide it into the PVC. You can see right there. Take a closer look. You can see right there the amount of space between the washer and the PVC. It's very minimal. It's not snug. You can barely feel it. There's just a tiny bit of space, but that makes it perfectly smooth. Look at that. and slide it all the way through. There's the other spacer, and here. Now I don't recommend gluing the cap on, and here's why. At some point you're going to want to take this apart. You might want to grease the rod so it doesn't rust so much, or you just might want to take it apart and put new hardware on it to make it nicer and smoother. You do not need to glue these caps on. The pressure of this bolt pushing this way and the other one at the end holds everything in place perfectly. Okay, so once again, that's our drill end. That's the part that's going into the drill. Now before I forget to put them on, let's put on our foam pads. See, this one is the bigger one. It goes in the back. And this is important. I've dropped this in the water before. I actually make a leash out of paracord and I tie it to something on the paddleboard, so just in case it falls in the water, it's not going to sink down to the bottom. I got tired of doing that, so I put a foam spacer here. If it falls in the water, this is going to keep it up. It's nice to have that leash in it though. I would leave it on there. And then this spacer, this is really important. As you put your propeller in the water, it's going to want to sink down, and you're going to be sitting up holding it, putting more strain on your wrist. So this 3-inch piece of foam is just enough to balance out how far the propeller goes into the water, so it's not a strain of you holding it or having to balance it or keep lifting it up. This foam keeps it right where you want it in the water. So this is something you really need. Okay, let's put everything in order. So I want my regular washer on here first, right after the cap. Then I want my nut on. Just wondering why this wasn't locking right away. Again, I'll just screw it down close to the base, but not tight. Then my locking washer goes on right there. That way when this nut forces up against the other one that's putting pressure down on the propeller, it'll hold everything in place better. Let's put the pin back in. Here's our pin. And line up the notch with that propeller. Make sure that pin's in there good. There you go. Put the washer on, put the nut on. Tighten it up just a little bit. So again, you don't need to crank this down tight. It just needs to be on there. There we go. So if you don't have somebody else to hold it and it's too far away, just put the vice grips on, set it on the table, and that'll hold it. Alright, so now you see we've got a little bit of play here. And that's okay. Probably got about 1/8 an inch of play. I can make that tighter, or I can just leave it as it is. It's just going to depend on how much noise it makes as it's rattling around. But the key thing is that when you look here, you can see that this is pushing the lock washer up against the other washer. This is holding down pressure on this end, and as you move it, that propeller spins. And of course your little metal pin has to be in that slot. So if I just spin it with my fingers right now, should spin fairly smoothly like that. Alright, here's something else I did. First, now you've got an idea of how to make it. You get your, this is probably, like I said, it's 1 inch outside diameter, so it's probably 3/4 inch inside. You just need it big enough so that rod can fit through. You definitely want those spacers that I put in between here, the washer with the 2 nuts on the side, because now it doesn't move around so much. And you definitely want to make sure you have a lock washer here. So I have a washer at the end of the cap, a nut, a lock washer, and then one more big washer there to hold that pin in. And then I have a washer and a nut, although I recommend one of those nylon nuts that lock when you screw it down. That way it won't come down at all. Like I said, never had a problem yet with this one. And what I did is I made this cool carrying bag. No, wait, let me take that back. I didn't make it, my wife made it. I had some extra cloth laying around, and I use this for carrying spear guns, pole spears, this propeller, anything that I want. It's just a long piece of canvas, fold it over, and then you leave a piece on the outside. That allows that to go inside, fold over, and then I just use paracord to wrap around. I'll show you after. That's not an important part of the video. That's just the bonus. All right, so let's check it out. Let's get my drill. And a lot of people ask me on another post, how long does the battery last? A lot of other questions that aren't really important because you don't have the same drill that I have. This is a China DeWalt. It says it's a 24 volt XR lithium ion, but I guarantee you it's not. This is a China DeWalt. It cost me maybe 1,200 pesos, so that's about $21 maybe. So that came with this, 2 batteries and a charger, and it works great. And if I accidentally drop it in the ocean, that's 21 bucks. So if you have a DeWalt or a Milwaukee or a Ryobi, something with a big battery on it that has a huge capacity, you're gonna be able to run this thing a lot longer. This little cheap battery on this Chinese drill will run this drill paddle for about 20 minutes. So 20 minutes. Okay, let's check it out. I'll screw it on here and let's see how it works, and then we'll do a water test because I'm gonna take the paddle board out. All right, so here you have it. You have your drill, your float in case it drops in the water, your float at the end just to help it keep balanced in the water. Like I said, keep this pretty close to the propeller. And let's check it out. There it is. So let's check it out. Now keep in mind, these Chinese drills, they have all these different strengths of how much they can torque. These mean nothing. You turn this as much as you want, it doesn't do anything. So this is basically one speed. It doesn't matter what you switch around, what numbers you move. This is only one speed. It's a cheap drill. It's a throwaway drill. I use it for stuff around the house that, it's not very powerful, but for this drill paddle, it's great for that. Okay, now let's break down the costs for all of this. For this, you guys might need a calculator. You guys figuring stuff out. For me, this all thread rod was cheap. It was roughly 150 pesos for a huge piece. I only needed, what did I say this was? Let's measure it. I only needed about 52 inches of this all thread, but of course I had to buy the whole thing, so that gave me other pieces so I could make other projects. So if you divide that 150 pesos roughly at 50 pesos per dollar, actually the Philippine conversion is like 55 or 56 pesos per dollar. To make math easy, let's say 50 pesos per dollar. So about $3 for the rod, and then divide that by how long your piece is. This got me like a 10-foot long piece, so I got a lot of rod for that. Your PVC, everybody goes to Home Depot. This PVC just runs you a couple of dollars for a 10-foot long piece. And keep in mind, this thing, once again, if we go back and do a quick measure on it, it's about 47 inches or so. So you're not even using half of a full piece of PVC. The foam noodle, I just had this lying around from pool toys and things like that. So that was free for me. But if you buy a foam noodle, what are those, like $1 at the dollar store? Your propeller, probably the most expensive thing. In the Philippines, I use Lazada.com. All this stuff, or most of this stuff, comes from China. And for a 2-bladed propeller like this, it cost me about 300 pesos. So once again, dividing that up, that's about currently $7 to $8 now. $6. You can spend between, I don't know, 300 and 450 pesos for a standard 2 or 3 blade propeller. So you range it between $6 and $8 for a propeller that you want. All the nuts and bolts and hardware, you're looking at free, because I collect stuff like that. I never throw it away, so I always have washers, nuts, bolts, and things like that. So if we were to add this up and you think about it, most of the stuff you probably have it laying around the house. But if you did have to go out and buy every single piece here, and then you figured out the cost, shoot, you're looking at I'm gonna say like $10 maybe, and that's stretching it. So you can pay $50 for the one in Walmart, or actually it's out of stock all the time, or you can make your own and just have some fun on the water yourself, and you're gonna pay about 10 bucks, maximum 15 bucks. Not everybody can get a propeller for this cheap, but I'm closer to China, so when I order this, like I said, this is $6 or $7, $8 at the most, and all the rest of this stuff is cheap. Now you probably heard one thing as I was spinning it with the drill. You heard a little bit of rattling. That's because it's the metal on plastic. If I didn't have those 2 spacers, it would rattle a lot more. But with the spacers, it actually quiets it down. I didn't have nylon washers available to me. So if you want to go cheap but make it not noisy at all, put nylon washers. Put a nut, a nylon washer, and another nut. Or maybe even a few nylon washers to build it up and make it thicker so there's more surface on it. If you wanted to go crazy, like one of my viewers suggested, put bearings in it. Put a nut, a washer, a bearing, and then another washer and a nut. And if you have bearings, it's going to spin even smoother, and you won't get that friction of the rod itself touching the hole. But like I said, man, look at this. This is not just something I made and never used. This is something that I made and I've used it many times. It's rusting out. I got tired of squirting WD-40 or silicone on it. I just leave it as it is, and it's been working great now. Shit, I forgot when I made my first one, maybe a couple years ago. Once again, here it is, guys. Here's your DIY drill paddle. So for those of you that want to look stylish, make yourself a bag. I don't like people know what I'm carrying around. I don't like people bothering me at the beach. Hey, what's that? I just carry this bag and make them wonder what's in it. Here's another thing I did at the end. This is the part that goes into the drill. So I put a foam pad on the end here. That way it doesn't poke through the bag. Alright guys, here it is. I'm going to do a quick test on the paddleboard. This is my almost 15-foot Quetsu paddleboard. I remember when I made this video, I told you about this foam noodle right here. Check that out. Depending on where you put it, that keeps it in the water at the right level. If you happen to drop it, this whole thing's going to float because I have 2 noodles on it. So you can adjust this to keep it real high like a mud motor, or slide it down so that it gets a little bit deeper in the water. All right, let's do a quick test. Let's just take this sucker, put it on the end here. Check me out, man. Let's go. Let's see if I can steer it now. But if I remember right, this is going to steer me that way. Yep, there we go. All right, man. We'll see you later.
Take it easy.
So today wasn't all about the drill paddle. I just wanted to take it out and test it for you guys so you can see that it works and everything's cool with it. I usually take my 24-pound thrust water snake T24S, the saltwater motor, out. We go out. Me and my buddy go around the Philippine Islands and go on different adventures on my paddleboard. So hopefully if you guys like this video, click like and subscribe. I got some more things coming up, some really cool videos coming up here in the Philippines. So check them out. I'll see you next time.